Hello and welcome back to part 3 of Knit Your First Hat. We are still knitting the Easy Peasy Stripey Beanie and this is video number 3. It's video number 3 to knit this hat, and we have, or you should have reached if you're following along, at the end of video 2 we reached the end of this ribbing section there, which is also the end of section 1 ribbing. So we are now on to the next page here, section 2, plain colour, colour A. Remember, you can get this pattern for free on Ravelry. The links will be down below. You can also look on the schematic here. We've reached the end of section 1 rib, so we're starting section 2 plain, and we're still in colour A, which in my case is this kind of greeny colour. Right, so section 2 is starts off with an increase round, knit 16, 14, 12, 10, 8, 9 stitches, then make 1 stitch. So that's going to be our new skill in this round. And we need to increase because, so we need to increase the number of stitches to make the fabric a little bit wider. And that's mainly to account for the fact that this is quite a stretchy section, and it works up wider because you're switching between knit and purl rows. It works up wider than a plain, this is called stockinette, when you just knit all the way around rather than alternating knit and purl like here. So what would happen would be that this section here would be a lot tighter than your ribbing if you didn't increase the number of stitches here to make up for that difference. So that's why we are increasing the number of stitches by a little bit. So let's get to it. So you can see we're just going to pretend that I've reached the end of my ribbing here. Right, so I'm here, you can see my stitch marker is there, so I've got 1 more stitch in this round, and then I slip the marker like that. Oh, sorry. There we go. Then we're going to increase the stitches, so I'm going to pretend that I'm doing the adult size S, which is the first bold number in the brackets. So it says knit 10 stitches, then make 1 stitch 8 times. So we are going to knit 10 stitches, and this time, remember last time we were alternating knit and purl stitches, this time we're just doing knit stitches, which does make it a little bit easier. So with the yarn in the back, going to go in from left to right and towards the back like that, yeah? Then put the yarn over from left to right as well and pull to the front. And then the next one, again, left to right towards the back, yarn from left to right and pull back to the front. And you're going to repeat that for 10 stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and then we're going to increase 1 stitch. So to increase a stitch, there are many different ways, but the way I'm going to do for this hat, and you could do any of those ways and it would work in this pattern, but what I'm going to do is use, so if you look at this section here between my 2 stitches, the one I've just worked and the next one, you can see there's kind of like a bar there. In fact, there's a bar between the stitches on every row. So we're going to pick up that bar and we're going to put it on our needle like this. Okay, so that you've got the yarn going from the front to the back if you're looking from left to right. Yeah, can you see that? Then, then what we're going to do is, we're still knitting as we usually would, and we take our needle as we usually would from left to right. It's a bit trickier here because it's an increased stitch, as we usually do, and then take the yarn from left to right and pull it forward. So we're doing the same thing, but what we've done is essentially we've used that bar below to just make a little loop in it. So I'm going to show you that once more after I work another 10 stitches. Because it says in brackets knit 10 stitches then make 1 stitch 8 times, we're going to repeat this whole process of knit 10, increase 1, 8 times. So now that I've knit 10 and increased 1, I need to knit another 10. get my needle through. So that was 1, this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right, so I've knit another 10 stitches, and again here you can see the bars there between the stitches below, and we take the latest bar and put it over our needle like this, from left to right, from the front to the back. And then we take our needle as usual from left to right. There you go. So you can see sometimes I need to push that yarn forward a bit. Just make sure you're not pulling on it super tight and then trying to reach it at the same time. Give it a little bit of slack, and then it's easier to get your needle through. Make sure your needle isn't going like that between both loops, okay? You've got that yarn going on there, and you only want the needle to go behind the front of that kind of the yarn that we've put on the needle, like this. Yeah? Let me show you that again. Pick it up, put it over like that, and go only behind this, not behind both. Like that. Then we take the yarn and put it on that needle from left to right, as we do for a regular knit stitch, and take it off. So again, you can see how, I'm just going to do an increase here to compare it with, so you can see how this is a normal knit stitch, and this is an increased stitch. Very similar, except that you've made a new loop using the loop below. But I don't need this one, so I'm just going to let it slip off. And there you go, it's back to where we were. So after you can recognise a little increased stitch because it'll have a little loop on it, like that. Okay, so those are knit and purl stitches below there. That's a knit stitch, and you can see this one has kind of popped out of the space between those two on a little extra loop. And then you knit 10 again and increase again. Okay, and then once you've done that the number of times specified, so in my case I would do that 8 times, I would then knit the remaining 2 stitches before the beginning of round marker. So that would be, I would do all the increases and I would end up here, and then I would knit the last 2 before the marker. And then you should now have a total of 90 stitches. So you can always go back and check the number of stitches if you're unsure. But it should add up. If not, maybe you've increased a stitch incorrectly or something. So it's always good if you're unsure to go back and check your number of stitches. And then we knit all stitches. The next thing is to knit all stitches for, in my case, 4 rounds. In other cases, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6. So that's why I've put these boxes here, so that as you do that you can tick it off. So I would suggest when you go round, whenever you get to the marker, you can tick one off. So I've put 6 boxes here because the maximum number of rounds you need to work for the adult L size is 6 rounds. But if you only need to work 2 rounds because you're doing the baby or toddler size, what I would do is just black out the squares that you won't be using, and that way you can tick round 1 and 2 off as you go along. It can also be useful to tick rounds off like this. So this is just 1 round here, so you can tick that off, and that just makes it easier if you come back to your knitting the following day, the following week or whatever, to see where you're up to. So for example here, if I have ticked these 2 but I haven't ticked any of these rounds, then I know that I must be up to here in the pattern. Otherwise I could, for example, tick round 1 and round 2 like that, and then I'd know that my next round to knit is round 3. So it's just to help you kind of keep track of it that I've put those boxes there. So follow those instructions as I've just shown you, and you should be ready to continue section 3 in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye!